Okay, so what we've got going on is I want to give you guys another version of a jug. This one happens to be inspired by a fellow potter and a friend of mine, Steve Johnson, who works in Northwest Connecticut. And about a month ago or so, I visited him at a show and picked up one of his jugs. And he has a completely different style in a lot of ways than me, in that he makes different kind of handles and has a different sense of form and proportion. I'm inspired by a lot of his works. I've learned a lot from him. So I want to share a piece that's inspired by his work. Now, the difference in this one is that it's much narrower in the foot, and the neck is a lot smaller, and it's a different handle style than I normally use. And in thinking about this form, I think back to when I was first learning to make pottery, and I remember spending a semester in college working on tall, narrow-footed, narrow-necked vases that had flared lips. And to me, those were a form that was a personal challenge because, you know, I was able to get clay thin by stretching it out and making it more bulbous, but throw it up tall and thin and have a subtle line to the form was challenging. And then having that tight neck and a flared lip added another level of challenge for me. So I worked on those for a while, and one thing I did was I tended to work back then with firmer clay, because firmer clay allows you to throw thinner and have more control, which is what I was looking for at the time. Once I got out of college and worked at a production pottery out in Seattle, I found that I prefer softer clay, more fluid movement and all that. So this clay here actually is a little bit thin. I wedged it up a few days ago. It's been in a bag, and so it'll probably make this job easier. Okay, so biting in, centered, kind of tight, opened up just a little bit, maybe about 2 inches on the inside. And then really kind of trying to focus on making sure the cylinder comes up and doesn't really open up. So a lot of times I'll alternate collars with pulls so I can maintain that upward stance. And then because this is a shape that's, I'm revisiting it after a long time, right? I'm not so much focused on getting it perfectly thin or anything like that. I'm just trying to kind of like get used to the form and become familiar with the sequence that is making this type of pot. And so over time, I think naturally, if I keep making them for a few days or whatever, my body will get used to it, my hands will get more coordinated, and subtle things hopefully will happen within the form that I kind of discover. So anyway, it's up, it's narrow, give the lip a little attention. There's a lot of things you'll do on most, I'll do them on most pots, like give that lip attention after it pulls. And then here, I'll just do one more pull to kind of thin and shape it a little bit. And we'll move on to the next steps. And probably leave about a third of the piece for the shoulder, neck, and lip, right? So thinking about from here to here, I'll bring in for the shoulder. So it's up, it's as thin as I need it to be at the moment. Bottom 2/3 is where it needs to be as far as that. Then coming in with the undercut. Once I'm done with my major pulling, I'll always come in and just get rid of that extra clay. Get the foot to the width that I need it. And then come in with a rib. So using that stepped corner here, get down as low as I can. Apply a little pressure on the inside against the rib, and just kind of stretch, smooth, and you get to finish that form. I always take a look at it from the side to make sure it's doing what I want it to. And then maybe just a little bit more volume out of here. And you got your shoulder, right? So it's staying pretty narrow, not a lot of volume happening there. Wet this top section like we did on the other jug. And then collar, I'm using my first half of my pointer finger to apply pressure and draw that clay in. As you do that, it thickens up a little bit, right? So I'll do maybe another collar, and then do that pinky pull, right? Point the lip a little bit. A little more water. Another collar. And pull up through the neck a little bit. It'll be a lot smaller neck than I've normally been using with jugs, so. That's about the size you want it. I'll come with this rib and use that short rounded end like I have been. Nice. Find that shoulder and then just kind of push over that rounded end. Get a nice transition. And then come in to refine the top. Give that lip a little bit of attention at the end. I want to have a little bit more definition with the lip, so I'll come in and just give it a little edge. There we go. And then undercut. Slight undercut. I like to have a foot showing there. It helps a lot when, especially when glazing. Gives it a little finished touch there. Okay. Now comes the handle. And this I'm going to do immediately. I think normally I would probably do it after it's set up a little bit. Let me get that one. Okay. I have a little piece here. Just like I demonstrated before, but it doesn't hurt to see it. Now the scale here is different. I've been working with much like beefier handles on my jugs, so I'm going to roll just a little coil, a teeny little coil here. Fatten up that end a little bit, make sure it flares out and is smooth and nice. Do the same thing to the other end, and then the thing I figured out is that if I just kind of wrap it around one finger halfway, I'll end up with a nice curve to the handle. So take it, bring it down and around, and just place it right on the side of the jug. If I were letting this harden up a little bit, I would definitely be scratching and attaching. Okay? So there's like a simple finished jug in one day, which you guys could do. We're going to have one more day on jugs next week, and we'll start a new unit mid next week. We'll also be glazing on Monday.